Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Cool Down Lap presented by Midwest Motorsports. You're joined here tonight by me, Anthony Castor, driver of the 8 car in the Cup Series, Justin Thaler, driver of the 2 in the Cup Series and Road Series, and James Johnson, the voice of Midwest Motorsports. We've got some things to go over that happened in real life over the weekend in racing, and we also have some league stuff to go over the course of the last week. Of course, our Cup and Truck Series came to a conclusion, so we'll go over the results of that, and our Road Series was out at Barber Motorsports. We're going to touch on that as well. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the This Week in Motorsports, and I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Justin, and he's going to talk to us about what he saw.
So, it's over the weekend. F1 was at Monza. Qualifying started off with a McLaren locking out the front row. The championship points leader, Max Verstappen, was, I believe, 5th or 6th through quali. So the Red Bulls looked like they really struggled if you watch the practices. Difficulty turning in, especially into the turn 1 chicane there. And seemed to be really oversteer or understeery for the Red Bull cars. But start of the race, everything kind of went off. Lando actually got off finally to a good start, but that didn't last long. Going into the second chicane, he was on the inside, and his teammate Oscar Piastri with Charles Leclerc close in tow behind. The two McLarens go too wide. Lando, I think, either wasn't expecting, I guess, such an aggressive move from his teammate, or he just not to race him through that chicane and allow any other competitors to close the gap. But Oscar really stuck it in there, and going into Lesmo 1, Oscar was well ahead, and Lando was fighting off Leclerc. There was a lot of really great battles throughout the whole midfield. Kevin Magnussen, finally, he did it. He amassed 12 points on his license and will receive a 1-week race ban. So, a lot of aggression from him. A lot of really late moves. But as well from Daniel Ricciardo, he had a couple penalties, mostly because he had a 5-second penalty for a racing incident when he come into pit. I believe it was one of the tire changers grabbed the car, which is a big no-no. So his 5-second penalty got elevated to a 10-second, so basically he had to stop again. But it was really interesting. The race kind of came down to more of a tire strategy. So a couple teams doing 2 stops versus Ferrari gambling on the 1-stop strategy. So it was a fairly clean race, even though there was a lot of cars beating and banging. There was no safety car or red flags or anything. But it was interesting to see the different strategies. So it would have been really close. I think if maybe the 2 stoppers, like the McLarens, would have maybe timed their pit cycles a little differently, they maybe would have caught Charles Leclerc. So at the end of the day, your finishing order was Leclerc winning at Ferrari's home track, followed by Oscar Piastri in second, Lando Norris, your pole sitter, falling back to third place, Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari coming in fourth, and rounding out the top 5 was Lewis Hamilton. So Max Verstappen fell back to 6th, followed by George Russell. Sergio Perez finally scored some points again for Red Bull. Albon and the Williams putting it in P9. Those Williams for a while they've shown they're really slippery. So at the high speed tracks, and Kevin Magnussen coming in 10th for 1 point, but pretty meaningless considering he's going to be taking a vacation next week.
Yeah. Question about the Haas cars. So I seen a clip over the weekend, and I don't know if you'll know the answer to this, James. You might know. So Did they tell, was it Magnuson, to park the car on the track during practice or qualifying?
I didn't catch that aspect. He did have a moment in qualifying where he did run wide, and I think it caught some of the. It was right out of the last corner, the parabolica, and there were some guys, and it was I think on the last lap too of Q2 maybe.
Yeah. The way I read it, it sounded like they were stopping the car on the track just for like in like a form of protest briefly, and I was like, what's going on to cause that?
No, I didn't catch that.
I didn't catch that either.
If I come across it again, I'll shoot it over to you guys and you can give me your insight on it. But it caught my eye and I was like, I'm gonna ask JT about this and see if he knows what the heck's going on.
It wouldn't surprise me if they would do something like that, but I didn't see it.
So the interesting thing, if you're not really following too closely, say a word for our fallen American brethren, Logan Sargent is no longer an F1 driver. He's been replaced at Williams by Franco Calapinto. I'm just going to call him Frank from here forward. So Frank was brought in basically. Williams had seen enough, rightfully so. Logan really never performed at all, and definitely cost that team more money than I believe his future, I guess, skill set is worth. So they decided to drop him for the rest of the season, and he brought that Williams home in P12. So, he's not going to be there next year. As anybody knows, Carlos Sainz will be driving for Williams, but I think that's a good break for Williams. They just need somebody to bring that second car home, and in I guess your debut of F1, it's not bad finishing just shy outside of the points, right? So that was good. As far as McLaren goes, and I guess their strategy, I don't know where that team really lies. They have a driver who's catching Verstappen in the World Drivers' Championship. The team itself is catching Red Bull in the constructors, and they just can't seem to make up their mind on, what driver the entire team, so to speak, will back, and how to maximize points not only for the team but for the driver. It was a lot of questions going around on what's going on, are there team orders there, what does papaya rules actually mean, or is it just a mythical thing that means nothing? From the sounds of it, I'm willing to bet it means absolutely nothing. Both drivers are super talented, but I think McLaren is missing big picture and potentially upsetting the whole apple cart. Red Bull's down right now, so now's their time to pounce. And Lando's their driver catching Verstappen for the lead of the championship, and why they aren't maximizing, I guess, Lando's points. If the win was in the books, then I could understand. Basically, if Piastri was bringing home the top spot on the podium, it makes sense. But they could have just switched drivers there on the last lap. If anybody remembers the controversy at Hungary when Lando was basically told, "You're going to need a teammate, give the position back so Oscar can get his maiden win in F1," and Lando did it. I guess there's no. Maybe there's a little bad blood after that, and I don't know if Oscar's trying to make a statement, but Stella came out after Hungary and basically said, "You're either with the team or you're not," and we don't play that role around here. So I don't know if maybe there's going to be words with Piastri. Maybe his move was overly aggressive. I'm sure Lando probably thought it might have been there on the opening lap, but still good points for Lando Norris in the chase for the drivers' championship. He brought home 16 compared to Max's 8, but he could have brought home another 2, so he could have gained at least 10 points on him versus just the 8. So
Yeah.
he did bring home the fastest lap, so there was another bonus point for him. So it's going to be interesting down the road. We're going to see what happens. Is this neither the McLaren drivers aren't fighting, first and second for the win of the title, so to speak. But eventually, could this turn into a Nico Rosberg Hamilton type deal at McLaren? I guess we might have to wait and find out.
Yeah, for
There's
sure.
so much to unpack there, man. You're right. It was an incredible race. I think, McLaren's kind of new at this game of running up front. They're used to being 6 and 7, 5 and 6. So I'm going to give them a little bit of a slack, probably the rest of the season for mismanaging. I mean, you're never going to get a better opportunity to get your number one driver, the one that's closest to winning, halfway through the season. You have a clear number one driver. This is the way Formula One works. And Piastri knows this when he signed up. Lando knew it. They both knew it at the beginning of the year. Whoever's in front at the halfway point is probably going to get some favoritism towards the end of the year because constructors' points mean everything. And drivers' championship, of course, brings its own thing. So, I mean, you're never going to get a better chance to maximize points for one driver than starting 1-2. And the fact that they let him race, I'm not saying pull over and let Lando go, but to keep Leclerc behind and let Lando pull a gap so he's not in DRS range, and then race it out. If they botch the strategy, then they still botch the strategy. But it would have been a totally different race if Lando could have been out front and Piastri slowed Leclerc down little by little. But Piastri was fast too, so I mean that could happen. I think.
Oh, for sure.
That's just my opinion. So I think they're kind of new at running up front with the big boys.
Yeah, I can agree. I mean, I'm looking at the standings now, but I just feel like there's no better chance than now. Lando is 62 points behind. We're in the fourth quarter, so to speak. So you run out of time, you run out of opportunity, and Lando's 62 behind. He's got 241 to Max's 303, and Oscar's 197. In terms of the constructors, it's only 8 points between McLaren and Red Bull right now. So Ferrari down in third place with 407. But yeah, I mean, you also don't want to you don't want to sit at the end of the season and say we could have done, our we would have been the guys taking the big trophy home at the ceremony awards had we just done this race. You know what I mean? Shoulda, coulda, woulda. I understand. But also in the grand scheme of things, I think it's pretty clear what you need to do to maximize your potential as well.
It ain't rocket science. The other thing is that a big player of the race was the track itself. They'd made quite a few changes. Got rid of the sausage curves. The angles in the first chicane weren't as harsh. But I think the sausage curves, especially in that second chicane, when Piastri got around Lando, if the sausages were there, Piastri would have been bouncing off the sausages. So the fact that they would smooth those curves up and made it more like a road speed bump, 25 mile an hour zone speed bump, that they could roll over and maintain momentum. I mean, he almost lost it to Leclerc right off that first lap. So anyway, there was a lot going on. We could talk for days about it. I know it's not the F1 podcast. This is the Cool Down Lap Midwest Motorsports podcast, but there was, yeah. I don't know if some people don't like Formula One. I love it.
Yep, and with that, since it's not the F1 podcast, what happened in the world of IndyCar, James?
Oh man, they had a double header at the Milwaukee Mile, which is crazy because these cars are so wicked fast, and they were all in the mail. I mean, average speed of like 125 almost. Downshifting three gears in every corner. Just awesome. Running three wide. You know, Connor Daly went from he had a bad qualifying in the first race on Saturday, and they had a doubleheader, full race on Saturday, full points race on Sunday, and he went from 18th to 7th in the first lap. It was awesome. If you haven't seen the highlights, I'm sure it's on the highlight reel. But he just wrapped the outside the third lane and passed 3-4 cars at a time. It was a thing of beauty, and he finished third. He finished on the podium first time Uncos Hollinger got a podium. It was Connor Daly on a one-off.
Nice.
Where was Roman Grosjean, you might ask? Did I hear you ask that, Justin?
I mean, he probably just got sent home.
Just about, basically. Imagine that. 24th out of 27.
Yeah, not surprising.
Yep.
I'm surprised he finished.
He was running
If
at
I'm
the
being
end.
honest.
I think 6 laps down or something crazy.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, but Pato Award ended up winning. And then Alex Palou couldn't get his car started on Sunday. And so that started a big fiasco. They were trying to get him started. They have this new hybrid system with the capacitor, and they're supposed to have onboard starters, but that's only for the road series. So he couldn't do his onboard starter. They had to wait for the AMR safety crew. They couldn't get it started. He took it over the wall in the back, and while they were trying to get it over the wall, they waved off a restart after saying they were coming to green. They waved it off exiting turn 4 or in the middle of turn 3. And so first 2 rows went, then the third row went, and the first row, Joseph Newgarden on the pole for the second race, lifted, and the third row didn't lift and took out Joseph Newgarden in lap 1 before the race even started. They had run 3 yellow laps, which count. So technically it was the third lap, but just a fiasco again on a restart. But shout out to Scott McLaughlin, Penske boy, winning New Zealand. Dane Van Giesbergen's buddy, former Aussie V8 supercar driver. So anyway, if you get a chance to watch the highlight reel, I mean, I watched every lap and it was exciting. If you have the time and the wherewithal to watch or listen to it, I think James Hinchcliffe and what's his name, Townsend Bell, do a pretty good job of calling the races. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and pick up the end of this, and we'll just kind of go over Darlington. So
Yeah.
so Darlington was more or less mostly the Kyle Larson show for the first 3/4 of the race.
I don't know. We were racing.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure he won stage 1. He won stage 2.
Was. Yeah,
They were monitoring the Bubba Wallace, Chris Buescher points battle fight, which throughout the night, I mean, as you got closer to the end of that race, you were actually starting to get invested in it. They had Michael Jordan. They were interviewing him, hey, what's your thoughts on this? It was really a cool atmosphere. Darlington sold out. Camping sold out. Nighttime race. Man, I wish they'd replace Phoenix with Darlington, but I get it. It's going to be cold there in November, but I'd love to see how it goes. So up until Price, 60 to go. Again, it was the Kyle Larson show. I think Briscoe ran a couple, put the heat on him a couple times, but it wasn't until the caution came out and they went down pit road, and everybody besides Ross Chastain decided to pit. And anybody knows Ross, he's gonna try and do his hardest on whatever he has to stay out front, and ultimately he did. I mean, he pulled away in that restart and fought as hard as he could, and then held up the air on, I believe it was Larson, and I can't remember who was on the outside of Larson, and Briscoe had one hell of a run and just slingshot him, and the rest was history after that, man. He basically ran away with it. Unfortunately, Bubba Wallace got wrapped up in an accident. It would have been great to see him and Busher race it down to the end. Good.
Did anything happen early in the race? Like
No. Go ahead.
a lap or two in? I'm asking you.
Oh, yeah. So, Martin Truex got a little eager, I guess. Tried to make his way to the front. Really blew that corner. Tried to correct it without taking Byron out, and instead collected Blaney. And ended both of their days 2 laps in. So, or 6, was it 2 or 6 in?
It was like the second lap, dude.
Yeah, it wasn't that far in. I know me and the wife were looking at it, and she was like, "Was that the first lap?" And I was like, "No, it wasn't the first lap." But they were definitely aggressive off the start. I think a little more aggressive than what they needed to be, and that actually put him on the outside looking in because Bubba was leading the race. So he was fortunate that Bubba started dropping back and they couldn't keep up with their adjustments and stuff, or otherwise Truex would have been watching the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
But again, as they got closer to the end of the race, Busher had a rocket. Kyle Busch on newer tires was able to get around people, and the thing that blows my mind was that Briscoe was able to basically keep up and defend against Kyle Busch on newer tires. I mean, both those guys drove the wheels off of their cars. 2-second gap between second and third place. So they were moving, and Briscoe pulled the win out. It was great for Stuart Haas. You could see all the emotion coming from that team. Cool to see. I know they weren't high up in the points or anything, and I mean it's kind of how the playoffs go. You kind of feel it for Busher. At his interview, you could see like he was just broken.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bubba as well. I think Bubba handled it pretty well for, years past. He'd give an interview and not be a good sport about it or anything, and he's, understandably so. But I mean, you still got to be professional about it. But he's catching on to it this year. He's giving better interviews and such. So the only thing those two can do the next 10 races is just go out and try to win one and, play spoiler. I mean, same with Bush. He has that, what is it, 19 years he's won a race?
Yep.
At least 8 races a season. So, I mean, he's got 10 races to try and keep that streak going. So,
It was a dogfight at the end. I really thought Kyle Busch was going to get to him because he was using everything he had in that set of tires, chasing down Briscoe, and I think he just maybe tried to make a move a little bit too early. Maybe he was anticipating a late caution coming out and going to green white checker or something.
yeah. I mean, you can basically guarantee if that caution came out, it doesn't matter if it's a green white check or not. Everybody's coming in for tires.
Yeah.
If they had them.
And I mean, if you think back to Chris's Busher's interview, I mean, by what a thousandth of a second at Atlanta earlier this year, and they wouldn't have.
Oh no, Kansas.
Or was it was Kansas?
Yeah,
You're
Kansas
right.
with Larson. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, and then he had it in the bag at Darlington in the spring, and him and Reddick got into it.
Yep.
So I mean, he's had his opportunities, and I mean, he's got to build momentum for next season. But the one thing that really surprised me, and I mean, everybody knows I'm a Larson fan, but the fact that championship was down to a single point.
Yep.
And that dude missed a race is a testament to how good of a season they were having.
Well, I mean, and hats off to Reddick because he was.
Yeah, he had his flu game.
He had bodily fluids coming out of every orifice of his body. So, like, and at a track like Darlington, like what worse place could you
Oh.
really go to fight? Long race, a difficult track, to be
Oh
fast
yeah.
and consistent. So
No, the only place I could have thought that would have been worse would be Bristol, just because you're constantly turning.
yeah,
But the hats off to him, man. With Jordan there, the fact that he had his own flu game, or as we found out, Jordan's was a hangover, but to have his own flu game and pull through it and still get the regular season championship, that's pretty awesome. I
yeah, it
mean,
was pretty cool.
yeah, keep it out of the wall there, and wow, out of the wall for the most part, and make it. It was cool. Uh, James, did I miss anything on that breakdown?
Oh man, it was awesome. Great job, man. I'll have to pull you in the booth, man. You'll start calling some of these races with me.
Hey, Corey LaJoy finished the race. I don't know if anybody was aware of that.
Or write this down in the history books.
Yeah,
One.
I seen he was in 10th place and didn't wreck the field either. So
yeah.
No, it was great, man. I do feel bad for MTJ, man. He just doesn't seem. I mean, I hate to put him out to pasture because he's awesome, man. Everybody's a fan of MTJ. If you don't like him, you know, get checked out, go to the doctor, make sure you have a pulse because he's never rubbed anybody really wrong. Of course, he might have had a couple little run-ins back in the day, but it just seems like he was trying hard, but it just didn't seem like his heart was in it. And maybe it was Shelly, I don't know, but something just seemed missing for MTJ, and I hope he finds it because I like him.
I still think it's him and his crew chief, James Small. I don't think the two. I don't think the two work together that well. And we'll see next season whenever Briscoe gets in the car if they do any better. But I feel like as soon as his last crew chief left, that was kind of when his decline kind of started. So
Darlington definitely provides some awesome racing. I don't know if I'd replace Phoenix with it, but I like it being the last race of the regular season, or I like it being a race where when a lot is on the line, have it at
yeah,
Darlington.
when it matters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're going back to next season. I think they're going back to it being the start of the playoffs, and I think they're putting Daytona back as the cutoff. But I don't know. I feel like the Daytona lead up and then this one really put some drama into the playoffs.
And the first three races of next week, next three races, of the playoffs, um, Atlanta, road course at Coda, and Bristol.
Wait, are they going to Coda or are they going to Watkins Glen?
Maybe it's Watkins Glen. You're right. It's a road course.
Oh,
It's
dude,
Watkins Glen.
I about died
Sorry,
there
sorry,
for a
sorry.
second. I was
Sorry,
like, we're
everybody.
going back to Coda.
I know. Take a deep breath. Didn't come back off the lid. I apologize. That's my mistake. But I knew it was a road course. Watkins Glen, no boot, of course, the NASCAR version. But yeah, those three races to start the playoffs. Um, yeah, those playoff points now matter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's gonna be a circus. You can say the first three races. So we'll see how it turns out. All right, guys. Well, we'll go ahead and hop into the league stuff that happened throughout the week, and we're going to start with the road series. I apologize, guys. I don't have any cool screenshots this week, so I'm just going to throw up the standings, and we'll let James go through and talk about how Barber turned out.
Man, it was awesome. If you don't know anything about Barber, it's a great road course. I mean, I like it. Um, 17 turns, 15 turns, maybe. Sorry, I don't have that right in front of me. But Justin was in it. I'm sure we're going to get his point of view. Chase Fincher and Michael Odell were definitely the class of the field. They started on the front row and never left each other's bumpers for the whole race. It was a great attended, well attended race, and there was racing up and down the field. Um, I say just a 60-minute race after a 1 week off, and yeah, it was incredible. Michael Odell in a BMW this time, Chase Fincher in a McLaren. Chase Fincher, newcomer to the league, but definitely making his presence known. Sam Hubbard ended up third. Jason Wahlberg fourth. Travis Rowe P5, but they were all about 20, 25 seconds behind the top two. Before the pit stop, there was probably a 4-car race with Justin was in the top 5 for a while. John Daniels was racing with them. It was just awesome racing. Jesse Coffey hung in there. And even further back in the field with a newcomer, Jamel Gummer. I think he's going to be a pro we're going to have to watch out for. I hope I'm saying his name right. He hasn't filled out a fun facts form, but he was very fast in the AMG, and he was racing with Robert Snar, and coming up on the very last lap of the very last section, probably the last 2 or 3 corners, after they crest a hill, come back down, and a long sweeping right-hander before the final left turn. Ron Kabiltis in the McLaren was trying his best. He's an AM driver, was being lapped. I'm not sure if he knew that they were racing for position. I think there were 3 cars racing for 8th, 9th, and 10th, and spun out right in front of him. I'm not sure if Jamel could have done anything with Robert Snar, but it was just great racing. You definitely should watch the replay. We had a special guest join me in the booth, Christopher Hopper. It was awesome to have him in the booth. He makes my microphone sound like it's a $5 Walmart piece of crap. So he's definitely making me step up my game. Hopefully, he'll give me some tips before it's all over. But it was a really fun race to call. Christopher picked it right up. And yeah, if you didn't get a chance to listen to it, we had some good camaraderie back and forth and some really funny one-liners and knee slappers and dad jokes all along the way. It was a lot of fun. The first AM driver was Ian Bakaitis. No, I'm sorry, Nick Aslin. Nick Aslin finished 13 overall. And so Nick Aslin won the AM division. And again, Michael Odell by 0.15, 0.13 to Chase Fincher. So, yeah, if you didn't get a chance to watch the replay, you definitely should. It's up on YouTube now if you don't do the Twitch thing. And Justin, tell me what you think about not only your race, but racing in general at Barber after a week off.
Definitely a difficult, challenging track to come back to for sure. Barber's full of some high speed corners, some maybe tight, tricky chicanes. You really got to carry the momentum there through a lot of section, but a lot of the turns and the chicanes are pretty well blind. So you really got to nail your markers and everything. So personally, just had a pretty rough qualifying. Just couldn't really get the car, I guess, or feel comfortable with what I had, for my brake bias and my turning points. Because the last time we did race here was in the F3 car, which it was well more planted. Yeah, but I just managed to. I was one of the probably the first guys in the pits, so I pit pretty early. And I went from 14th to 8th, so I had some battles in there and just didn't have the overall pace there. I think I ended up taking left side tires at my stop. I don't think I took all 4, but tires definitely played an advantage. But it's a fun track. It'll test your limits whether you're by yourself or you're trying to either defend or chase somebody else down. Yeah. So yeah, it was just a lot of exactly what you said, trying to set yourself up for a run, and it was fun I went quite a ways without getting an incident, and then I finally got one. I think I had 5 at the end of the race, so I was a little peeved off at myself for allowing to get those mistakes. But Yeah, it's a fun race. Barber's fun, and we don't feature it very often, but it's always a challenge. I personally think it's one of those tracks where it's primarily, it's 70% of you versus the track and 30%, all the other competition in the field.
Yeah, Mr. Barber is a motorcycle guy, and he's got motorcycle museum in his personal collection that's like 8 floors high and stacked 20 high on the motorcycles. But the the track has a lot of constant, well, I guess changing radius, but really really long sweepers, kind of like the carousel at Watkins Glen, but corners just go on and on and on and on, and then you change of direction real quick. So you can imagine like really high speed chicanes, not like Monza where you have to brake for them, but some flat out chicanes at the beginning of a straight, and then the other chicane was a downhill chicane, but still where you probably third gear, high RPM third gear, or maybe fourth gear into third before you're at the end of the chicane. So those change of directions and are like look awesome on a motorcycle when you watch them go from dragging the left knee or dragging the left elbow nowadays in MotoGP to dragging the right elbow, and the long constant or the long radius corners that just go on and on and on and on, provide multiple different lanes for a motorcycle to be at maximum lean angle and use your throttle to gain or lose or change your apex line. So that's the track was designed to be a MotoGP track. Didn't work out, but it ends up being a great racing for sports cars and race car, any other race car, honestly. Also, um, the curbs, you can choose to hit them or not to hit them. But one of the biggest factors, like you said, Justin, the track itself is the challenge. Brian Coxon, last season's runner up by just 25 points, which is one position, um, lost it on lap one coming into the chicane at turn, I think, 8. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, just that's how easily you can go from hero to zero. And I hated to see that for Brian. I did watch his um, stream that he did on his own, and he kept his cool the whole time. He's probably one of the most relaxed, chill guys behind the wheel. I would have been furious at myself. No contact, but took too much curb, and the track got him bit back.
Yeah, I'm looking at the
Congrats
results.
to
Yeah,
everybody.
he went from Brian went, unfortunately, from that happened right in front of me on I think it was on the opening lap. He
Yeah.
went he qualified fourth, and he fell all the way back to 14th. So yeah, tough, but he'll bounce back.
Yeah. Oh, so
He'll
although I
bounce
did
back.
just read in his in the road series chat that he's considering not even coming tomorrow since he hadn't been able to practice, and he said he doesn't want to murder anybody. So we'll see. You have to stay tuned to see if Brian Coxon shows up tomorrow night. I hope he does.
Oh, this is my opportunity. I mean, if it's anything like last week, he'll just murder himself.
The
Hey,
looking at
don't
those
hold that,
points,
Justin.
man.
Right?
That pro standings looks pretty close, man. If
Yeah.
Brian Coxon misses another race, that could tighten up a good bit, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we have
Early.
two drop races, and quite honestly, I would try and just get a feel for Montreal in wet conditions because even if he gets a decent finish, you know, there's an opportunity if he gets better than what he did at Barber, then that'd be a drop race, So, um, yeah, I didn't
Yeah,
want to jump in on the points or nothing, but there's also that I guess you have to think about. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, it just kind of ties together with what was going on in the road chat there. I mean, if that's possibly two drop races right there. If you miss this
yeah,
week with last
yep.
week, if you had bad enough standings, and yeah, then you gotta run the rest of the season and hope you don't have any hiccups.
Which is impossible. Everybody's going to have hiccups. So, just
It's
do the best you can. I would give a big shout out to all of the road racers. 28 drivers started, 27 drivers started. So shout out to all you road guys really showing up, and all the racing. Everything seems so positive. There was a lot of give and take out there, and it shows that you guys are really having fun and trying to better yourself, and the racing gets better because of it. So kudos to all you guys. Don't you think, Justin?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's great. We have the the on and off track camaraderie within the road series, and it's all for fun. Don't let one race or one incident with somebody ruin your experience, either with that person or the league in general. And I personally always look forward to Tuesdays when we got races and just going out there and you know it, just because you're maybe not as fast as you think, or there's people maybe faster than you. Don't get discouraged. Set realistic maybe goals for yourself and what you want to achieve. And if you're having problems or struggling, just ask for help. The guys are more than willing. There's no real big egos here in the road series. Oh, there's maybe a couple, but I think for the most part we got an awesome group of drivers on Tuesday nights.
And it's really hard. I mean, shout out to Adam Sondag for helping out with the behind the scenes stuff for me and Hopper. And we really try hard to put everybody on the stream, but we can't catch every pass. There's a little glitch in some of our replays. We tried to catch some stuff after the fact, and it just didn't quite work out with the technical side on the software. It wasn't anything Adam or Josh was doing, but we try our best to show everybody that we can, and we're going to continue to make an effort to put everybody on the screen as much as we can. But again, Michael Odell and Chase Fincher were having such a great race. For battles up and down the field. If we didn't catch it, we're going to try our best to get you next time. Just stay with us, and thanks to everybody for tuning in and watching.
I'm gonna be completely unrealistic. You need to do something like they did in the Cup race. They had 3 separate cameras running, like
I
for
didn't know
10
what to watch.
minutes.
It was crazy.
I know.
I don't know if
Couldn't
it
keep
helped or
track.
hurt. Yeah, like what do I watch?
I was just moving my head, bobbing up and just kind of making the rounds from one to the other. You know what I mean? Like it was a little too much, I think. But no, I mean you hit the nail on the head. I can't imagine it. You're not picking and choosing to not show somebody for no
Right.
reason at all. It's something I think people just got to understand. I think most people get it, but yeah,
Just know that we
hopefully,
recognize that not
for sure.
everybody gets on that super bunch of airtime, super amount of airtime, and it's definitely one of our goals. So thanks again to everybody watching.
Yeah.
So Road Series is where next week? I tried to say it over the weekend, and Josh almost beheaded me.
Montreal.
Circuit.
Was it?
Gilles Villeneuve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just call
I
it
know better than to
Canada.
try and say that again. Yeah.
Gilles
call it.
Villeneuve is Jack Villeneuve's dad.
It's
Formula One driver, Ferrari.
it's on an island in Canada. That's all you need to know.
That's all I need to know. Yeah, it's off on an island. That's why they can name it funny things.
Yep. Yeah, it is one of our guaranteed rain races. Highly suggest if you're one of our road series drivers that you make yourself comfortable, because there's gonna be some slipping and sliding tomorrow night.
Definitely. And the walls are really close. They do bite. And
Yep.
I was really proud of you. And I heard you talking about the Wall of Champions, I think, last week. Didn't you mention that?
It was not me.
Okay, well, who was it? All right, maybe it was Josh.
Probably
I'm not sure.
Josh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to you, Josh, for recognizing the Wall of Champions. The final chicane is where names are made, and it's going to bite. The sausage curbs do not give. I know, Justin, you have to watch out.
Yeah.
With sausages. I know you
Absolutely.
like to eat sausage. So
Who doesn't?
that's right.
But yeah,
So
I mean, what Real quick, though, I think what makes that chicane so important is you really need to nail it for the run out for the long front stretch.
Yeah, it's almost
and it's more difficult in the wet. I'll just say that.
yeah, and it's almost blind as well because it's right at the pit entry. I suggest you practice your pit entry because that's going to change. You have to know where the pit lane speed limiter is. Is it after the turn or at the entry of pit end? Do you know, Justin?
That's a really good question. I should probably practice pit entry myself before tomorrow night.
Because you can go flat out into it. Depending on which game you're running, you can't do it on the sim, obviously, but
Yeah.
it's got auto pit lane speed. You just hammer down full throttle into it. And anyway, but not in iRacing. So pick up for that. Is it? I'm not sure if it's a low downforce track or a high downforce track because there's long straightaways, then chicanes, a long straightaway chicane, a couple of turns, and then a chicane again. So um, a hairpin at the end of another long straight, a hairpin to start the longest straight. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of flat out racing. Two wides into chicane's probably not going to work. You're going to have to tune in to find out, right, Justin?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And hopefully nobody tries that in the wet.
So you guys can catch a green flag tomorrow at 7:30, correct?
7:25, I believe, is start time. And
Right.
Hopper will join me, and I think we're going to try to go. We're going to go live for the qualifying session as well. So me and Hopper will be able to get our introductions out of the way and talk about qualifying, talk about the track itself, talk about the weather, even before the race starts, instead of having to go right to the drop of the green flag. So shout out to Hopper for joining me tomorrow night. Looking forward to it.
Nice.
All right. So we're going to go ahead, wrap up this road segment, and head on over to the Oval Series. Again, pardon my lack of screenshots, but we're going to display the Truck Series finishing points. As everybody knows that's been tuning into the podcast, last Friday was our last Truck Series race of the season. They were out in Homestead,
Miami. That's right.
Homestead,
Same track.
Miami.
Same track
Yep,
as the
and
Cup Series.
it was a transition race, so it started late in the day and worked into night. So I imagine that track cooled down and put on some great racing. How'd everything turn out, James?
Man, another incredible race. Homestead, Miami. Multiple racing grooves. A mile and a half. I think it's 22 to 28 degrees progressive banking. So a lot of guys were running the wall. A lot of guys were dropping down to the white line. Just trying to take the line opposite of the guy in front of you, so you get clean air on the nose. We had 16 drivers show up to race. And so a little bit like crowd, which happens at the season finale. Robert Sanders put it on the pole in the psychedelic number 6. He ended up finishing third, but he was in the fight all day. Competition caution at lap 20 brought everything together. They made it to lap 20 with no cautions. He had 4 cautions at the end, 3 of which were wrecks for a total of 9 laps. So it was not too bad on the cautions side. All incidental contact. Eric Thaler had about 8 seconds after the pit cycles and cautions came out. Tires were the biggest factor, I believe, especially on the long runs. I don't think there were any green flag cycles. It seemed like the yellows came out just in time for everybody to come in and get new tires. So that helped. Walker was with me calling the race, and it was a lot of fun. But Eric had about an 8-second lead. And then coming up on the last 15 laps, Michael Samia was caught in traffic behind Brandon Cotton, Travis Jones, and even Trevor McLaughlin. And Samia did not want to force it 3 wide. And Samia's not made every single race. I think he only made 8 races of the 12-point scoring races this season. So he wasn't really in it for the points. So I don't think he was super aggressive to try to force things 3 wide and just showed his class and let the guys in front of him race it out. But in the meantime, was saving tires. I don't know if it was part of his plan or just the way it worked out in circumstance. And he was able to reel Eric in 8 seconds in the last 15 laps and passed him with 2 to go.
Oh.
And never looked back. Michael Samia with the win. Nicholas Aslan got second and the championship overall. I think once Michael Samia passed to Eric, Eric kind of gave up the ghost and lost the heart in it. And dropped back to fourth. Robert Sanders from the pole brought it home third. Eric fourth, Trevor McLaughlin fifth. Brandon Cotton had a really good run. Brandon Morris was up there for a while. I thought there was some great racing the whole night. Justin missed the race. He thought he would just take a nap, and he's getting old, needs his beauty sleep. So we all thank him for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So did you get to watch the replay, Justin? Or I saw
did.
you chime in a little bit. We tried to pick on Walker a little bit, but he didn't take the bait. That was fun.
You kind of softballed it to him, but that was okay. Yeah, it was. I was working on my daughter's car till about 11 o'clock at night, so priorities took over, which is fine. Would have been
Yeah.
fun to be there, but yeah, I was trying to tune in when I could, when I wasn't covered in transmission fluid and stuff. So
All good. It was great. Michael Samia was very gracious. Definitely didn't go to his head. He gave Nicholas props for winning the championship and said that it just worked out with tires. And once he was able to let the race in front of him sort it out, he just dropped the hammer and took off. Took those good tires to his advantage and reeled in one truck at a time until he got up to Eric, and nice smooth pass. Eric stayed high. Michael dropped down the apron. 2 corners later, Michael was able to clear him and come up. Not a slide job. He waited till about half the straightaway, make sure he was clear, and then popped up. Eric didn't give up. He was he made Michael earn it. So props to Eric for hanging in there as long as he could. But I talked to him after the race. Eric said he didn't know what he could have done different. Thought he was a high line was the way to conserve tires, but at the end of the day, couldn't pull it off. Congrats to Mike Samia and congrats to Nick Aslan. He was pretty gracious at the end too. What a season for Nicholas Aslan,
Yeah. Looking at the point standings, again, Nick Aslan was the Truck Series champion. And he built that on what looks like a body of consistency throughout the season. So congrats to him. He's
Only
just
one
got to
race.
get. Go ahead.
Sorry about that. Only one race outside of the top 10, and only 2 races, including that one, out of the top 5. 2 wins at Atlanta and Kentucky. Remember when Atlanta, the lights never came on because there weren't any lights at Atlanta. Nicholas Aslan won that shortened race, which counts full points. And Kentucky, he won outright as well. Running the number 48, GOAT all time. Matter of fact, so props to Nick Aslan for pulling off a great championship. He made all the races. That helped.
Yeah.
Finished 3 races with bonus points, bonus for no incidents. So that helped as well.
Yeah, just a true competitor, but gentleman as well. I've said it before, so congratulations, Nick, for the championship, and congratulations, Mike, for bagging a win.
Yep. So we are going to have Nick on next week as part of our Oval Championship episode. So we'll be hearing from him next week. So tune in for that one, guys. And we'll move on to wrapping up the Cup Series for the season. So Cup Series was also out at Homestead. Not as many cars as we started the season with, but that led to some great green flag racing for, I'd say, most of the race. It felt like it was green flag. Got to see some green flag pit stops. Everybody loves green flag pit stops. Overall, I felt like it was good was good racing. James, what'd you see out there?
Yeah, incredible racing. Oh my gosh. We'll get to the end, but first of all, I love the concept of um, a smaller gas tank and only 3 sets of tires for the whole race. 134 laps, I think, was the total lap number, and 3 tires total, including the one you start with, and 2 on the ground. So it really, especially at a track like Homestead, Miami, where tires are everything, they really were everything. With the competition caution at lap 20 as well. Yeah, good racing. Justin Thaler put it on the pole. Congrats, JT.
Yep.
Kind of
Thank you.
cool to start the race off, right?
Yeah. It wasn't my plan, but I wasn't gonna, not take it.
You didn't stay up there very long. Do you remember what happened on the start? I don't. I truly am asking.
Yeah, honestly, going into that race, I just was looking for a clean, decent points finish. With where the points were going into there, I just wanted to bring it home kind of clean. In my qualifying, I actually ran the bottom both laps, and I didn't think it was going to hold. I know Albert Williams said, I think his first lap, I think when I saw him pop up on the leaderboard, he was pretty close. I thought his second flyer might have been good enough. But, in iRacing, you can't watch anybody as they're qualifying, so you really don't know what happened. Did he hit a wall? Or because even if you do get a 0x, your lap is thrown out. So not sure if maybe he pushed too hard on his second or what happened, but I was just looking to conserve tires because you said it exactly. With the very limited tire sets we had, I was trying to just nurse those so I could take those, the distance, and then be able to maybe push my next sets when I took tires a little bit further. Um, so it was just pretty much tire management. I wasn't worried about really being up front or leading. I didn't need to be in that position, for that race.
Sure, you were playing the long game right from the get go. You didn't want to burn a fast repair, then not have it later. Guessing,
Yep.
something like that.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
which was really
Exactly.
smart. So yeah, I mean, but there really was good, hard racing. Walker McNulty was putting his nose in there. He had a fun paint, Sour Patch Kids paint. Trevor McLaughlin and Ant, you were in there racing with you and Aaron Holroyd had really good races. It seems like y'all were stuck together a lot on Sunday.
Yeah, he could hold that top line, man. I was surprised he had a couple really good runs off there, and I'm like, is that Aaron behind me? And um, I told him over the radio, I said, dude, I was like, you get those runs, just give me a shot in the rear end down the backstretch, man. I was like, it'll help. It'll help us speed us up. But he could run that top line, man. It was unfortunate. I think he had a issue where he came off of 2, and it was either 2 or 4, and he ended up getting really loose. And instead of collecting me, he caught the car momentarily and then put it in the wall. And I think it ultimately gave him a meatball. But he had a good run going, man. And it was something about that track. You could run the top, and then you could also get some speed on the bottom, but you weren't getting that exit off the corner if you were running the bottom. So it was a fun race, man. And there was a lot of fun passing. I'd say people passing down low, and
Yeah,
people doing slide jobs. Slide jobs are fun to see. I got to throw a couple myself. So, I mean, all in all, that's the kind of racing I like doing in the league. Is clean green flag racing where we can throw some slide jobs on each other and uh just have fun.
Yeah, I anticipate the tire wear at the bottom being horrendous, but it I don't know. It just didn't seem to, I guess, be all that bad
So I
compared
think
to the top.
I think if you sling it in there, like if you overdrive the bottom, which was easy to do at that track,
Mm-hmm.
then you were going to wear the tires out. But I think if you're able to get off the gas and ease into the brakes and just kind of roll the bottom, I don't
Yeah.
think it was wearing near as bad as what we were anticipating.
Yeah, it's. I mean, to make a pass there though, like you definitely got to be able to clear the guy on the top if you're going side by side, because it did take time if you were working the bottom. I know for a while, me and Walker were having some good battles, and he was
6 and
primarily
8
running.
laps at a time. I mean, you guys were
Yeah,
side by side for 6 and 8 laps. You'd fan out in the corners and come out side by side. High lane would come out of the corner just at the beginning of the corner exit, like front bumper to rear bumper, and then by the time you got to the middle of the straight, it was door to door, and it's fan out again for lap after lap after lap, both ends.
yeah, it was fun. Some 2 wide, 3 wide stuff. Everybody kept their composure pretty well from what I could see.
That would annoy me. Dang, come on! This is like lap 8. We're side by side. We're both slowing ourselves down. I don't know. We're side drafting a thing. I think everybody kept their distance. I don't know if side drafting played a part.
I can't do it, but I know Anthony loves when somebody's running right on his door.
Oh, I hate it. But I mean, I do it myself too, so it's kind of karma, I guess.
But
But
down at the end, it came down to Eric Thaler and Dustin Reinstedel again. Eric Thaler with the lead. I think he had about 6 seconds on this one in the Cup Series, and Dustin caught up to him and worked him and worked him and worked him. Like I said, and couldn't do it. So then he dropped back and follow Eric for a little bit, not necessarily follow him, but get a slipstream on the straightaways, uh, spread out, and then come out behind him, the corner exit, and get a slipstream and try to make another run. And it took him 3 runs. And finally, the laps were completely out. And coming to the white, Dustin's side by side with them. They go across the line side by side, and they fan out, go down the back stretch, back to front, nose to tail. And this time, Eric had been running the high lane, actually into the wall. He'd been running the
Yeah.
Ross Chastain, what you call it, line right on the safety door. So I mean, he still ended up with the 0X, I think.
Yep.
So I don't know how he did it, but he was running. He wrecked every single lap that race, and still had some speed on the front straight. And but in the very last corner, turn 4, coming to the checkered flag, Eric decides to take Dustin's line away and runs the middle, and Dustin just cuts a little harder and gets down right on the white line off the apron, and Eric, I guess, didn't run the middle enough to know when to start throttling back up and couldn't keep up with Dustin. Dustin pulled out as they crossed the line. Dustin just barely ahead of Eric, 0.166. Dustin Reinstedel for the win. He only led 1 lap, and that was the last one.
that's awesome.
Yeah, I just want to say, like, I'm looking at where the points are in the top 10. Like, Eric missed quite a few races. He had some bad luck. But like I'm looking at a guy like Aaron Holroyd down in 10th. Like, he had some races where he just got caught up, or maybe wasn't able to finish due to some incidents. But like, I give props to Aaron. Being kind of newer, I guess, to our oval side, especially the next gen. But he, when he was on it, and he had a lot of good races. So
Throughout the
it'll
season,
be
yeah, you're right.
yeah, so it'll be interesting. Like if he can put it together and just work on getting those cleaner and ensuring you're finishing the race. He could definitely, I could see him up a couple of spots. But Eric in 5th for having the almost craptacular season he had,
Yeah.
he had some good finishes. So, I think the points battle was pretty tight, throughout the field this year, probably tighter than maybe most seasons we've had. Anthony, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I totally agree. I mean, for the amount of people that didn't complete, all the races in the season, we still had. Uh, I mean, everybody within. We'll pull Dustin out of that, but the top 7, it looks like three of you completed all 12 races, which is the top 3 as it should be. I mean, you guys ran the most races, but it ain't really that much of a point fall off to the people that ran 1 less race, 2 less races, or 3 in Eric's case. So, no, I mean, it was close this season, it's good to see. I mean, there's some competitiveness in the points. You don't have snowballing of stages and no incidents, and just all the bonus points stacking up to somebody taking like a gigantic unsurmountable points lead. So it was refreshing. It was good to know that throughout the entire season, if somebody has a mistake or uses up their provisionals and can't get points, that you can overcome them at some point, because the gap isn't really that big. So interested in seeing what changes come up for next season. So I'm sure once that's all hammered out, we can talk about it on the podcast. But I personally feel like this is probably one of our better points layouts that we've had going back to before we started the chase.
Yeah, I think it was a fun season.
Of course you do. We crowned a champion.
I'm not saying.
I'm saying, I'm leading into it, that we crowned a champion. Congratulations to Justin Thaler from Ohio with the win. Calcutta, Ohio, right?
Yes, sir.
Congrats, Justin, man. You finally did it. This is season 7. It's taken you 7 seasons. No truck championship, no road series championship. Finally, you get a truck series or cup series championship. And there it is. I'm not sure if you're looking at the
That's beautiful.
stream, but we got you covered with the iRacing certificate. Congrats on your championship. JT, how does it feel to be a champion?
Yeah, it took a while. We can save most of it for maybe next week's podcast, but yeah, a little bit of a weight off my shoulders. So just something that kind of always just kind of wanted to do, and finally was able to put it together for a season. And I got lots of reasons to discuss next week on maybe what helped play into that. Being able to finally cement myself, I guess, in Midwest Motorsports oval history.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I did mention on the post-race interview that you won both of the road courses throughout the season. And we can talk about that, of course, like you said, on the podcast. So you're not going to want to miss the championship review on the cool down lap when it comes. Keep your eyes open for it. But congrats, Justin, on a killer season, man. You did it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. So as you guys heard, next week we're going to have Nick Astlin on as our Truck Series champion guest, and of course Justin's going to be joining us as well, just this time as our Cup Series champion. So stay tuned for that. It'll be dropping next week, same time, 8 p.m. on Monday. So you guys got anything else, or are we good on this one for the week?
Thanks to everybody for tuning in and for joining. Awesome racing. Keep it up.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks to everybody involved, as far as all our members here. We say it a lot, and it's probably sounds like a broken record, but we wouldn't be able to do it without people having the interest and commitment to being here at Midwest Motorsports, and we appreciate it all. All comes back to you guys. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have this thing, at all. And all our admin group and our broadcast team, really, all you guys donate your time to this, and kind of we all share the same vision and work well as a team, and we really want to see this thing keep doing what we're doing and make changes where maybe we see fit and try new things, whether it's like this season, the points format or some rule changes, and keep testing the waters and hopefully getting better every season.
Yep. The goal is to put the best show we can together while still having fun. So,
Yeah.
all right. That's it for this week, guys. Again, check in tomorrow, 7:25 for the green flag out at the Canadian track on the island. And
Gilles Villeneuve.
yeah, what he said.
Say it, Anthony.
I am not saying it. I don't want Josh getting a ticket down here on a plane to behead me in the name of Canada.
Waterboard you with maple syrup.
Yeah, waterboard with maple syrup. Have the miss hold me down. All right, guys. That's gonna wrap it. So y'all have a great week, and we'll come at you here next week.
Don't forget to stay in your lane.